The elevator door slid open, and I stepped into a world that felt like a fever dream, marble floors gleaming under crystal chandeliers. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing Manhattan's glittering skyline. My duffel bag, frayed at the edges, looked like an intruder in this penthouse. A place so opulent it could have been ripped from a movie. But this wasn't a dream. It was my new reality. And the two men waiting for Mimi's stepbrothers were about to turn it upside down. I'm Ezra Kane, 23. A graphic designer scraping by in Brooklyn until my mom's whirlwind marriage to tech mogul Richard Langston changed everything. 6 months ago, she moved into his Connecticut mansion. And now, after a cryptic phone call, I was here summoned to live with Richard's sons, Theo and Julian, in their Manhattan penthouse. Why? I had no clue. But the way Theo's piercing blue eyes locked onto mine, and Julian's slow, teasing smile curled as he leaned against the bar, told me this wasn't just about family bonding. Ezra, Theo said, his voice smooth as whiskey. Stepping closer. He was all sharp angles tall, broad-shouldered, with a tailored suit that screamed control. Welcome to our world. His gaze flicked over me, not unkindly, but like he was sizing up something he wanted to claim. Julian pushed off the bar, his dark hair falling into his eyes. His vibe more relaxed, but no less intense. Don't let Theo intimidate you, he said, winking. He's all bark. I'm the one you'll actually like. His grin was disarming, but there was a spark in his hazel eyes that promised trouble. I swallowed hard, clutching my bag. These weren't just my stepbrothers, they were the Langston twins. 30. Billionaire heirs to a tech empire. And, according to the tabloids, notorious for their charm and ruthless ambition. And now, I was living with them. Alone. In a penthouse that felt like a gilded cage. The first night was a blur of awkward small talk and champagne I was too nervous to drink. Theo showed me to my room, a suite bigger than my old apartment, while Julian lingered in the doorway, tossing out playful jabs about my artist vibe. But beneath their polished exteriors, I sensed a current, a tension that crackled when their eyes met. They were competing, not just for my attention, but for something deeper. I just didn't know what yet. The next morning, I woke to find a sleek tablet on my nightstand. A note from Theo in crisp handwriting. Join me for breakfast. We need to talk. I stumbled into the dining room, where he sat at a glass table, reading a financial report like it was a novel. He looked up, his expression softening. You're not what I expected, he said, almost to himself. You're real. Before I could respond, Julian sauntered in, balancing 2 coffee mugs. Theo's boring you already, he teased, handing me a mug with a grin. Stick with me, Ezra. I'll show you the city. His fingers brushed mine, deliberate, sending a jolt through me. I laughed it off, but my heart was racing. They were both so different. Theo, all intensity and quiet power. Julian, reckless charm and warmth. Yet, they shared a magnetic pull that made it impossible to look away. I was caught between them, a moth drawn to 2 flames, unsure which would burn me first. Over the next week, the penthouse became a battleground of subtle gestures and loaded glances. Theo would invite me to late-night strategy sessions, his voice low as he explained his vision for Langston Tech, his hand lingering on mine when he passed me a pen. Julian, on the other hand, dragged me to rooftop parties, his arms slung casually around my shoulders, whispering jokes that made me laugh until my sides ached. Each moment with them felt like a step towards something inevitable, something forbidden. But it wasn't just their attention that unsettled me. The penthouse was filled with secrets, locked doors, hushed phone calls, and a strange photo I found in a drawer of Theo and Julian as teenagers, their arms around a third boy who looked eerily like me. When I asked about it, Theo's face darkened, and Julian changed the subject with a forced laugh. Whatever they were hiding, it was tied to me, and I needed to know why. One night, after a gala where Theo's hand on my lower back felt too intimate and Julian's dance with me lingered too long, I confronted them. We stood in the Penthouse's glass-walled living room, the city a glittering backdrop to our tension. "What's going on?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Why am I really here?" Theo's jaw tightened, but Julian stepped forward, his eyes searching mine. "Ezra," he said softly, "it's not just about you living here. It's about us. Both of us." He glanced at Theo, who nodded, almost reluctantly. "We've been watching you," Theo admitted, his voice raw. "Not just since you moved in. For years. You're different. You see the world differently." And he stopped, like the words were too heavy. Julian finished for him. "We're both falling for you, Ezra. And we don't know how to stop." My breath caught. This wasn't just a game of charm or rivalry. They were serious, both of them. My stepbrothers, the untouchable Langston twins, were in love with me. And the worst part, I wasn't sure I wanted them to stop. The air in the penthouse felt heavier after their confession, like the city lights outside were holding their breath. I stood frozen, my heart a drumbeat in my chest, as Theo and Julian waited for me to speak. Falling for me. Both of them. It was insane. Impossible. Yet the way they looked at me, Theo's quiet intensity, Julian's unguarded hope, made it feel terrifyingly real. I need time," I stammered, backing away. Their faces fell, but they didn't push. Theo nodded curtly, retreating to his office, while Julian offered a small, sad smile before slipping out to the rooftop. I was left alone, the weight of their words sinking in. How had I gone from a struggling artist to the center of a billionaire love triangle in a matter of weeks? The next few days were a tightrope walk. Theo buried himself in work, but his glances lingered longer, his voice softer when he spoke to me. Julian doubled down on his charm, leaving notes on my sketchpad or dragging me to impromptu art gallery visits. His laughter a balm to my confusion. But every touch, every shared moment, felt charged with something unspoken, a question neither of them dared ask. Who would I choose? I didn't have an answer. Theo's quiet strength drew me in, his rare smiles like a reward I hadn't earned. Julian's warmth made me feel seen, his reckless energy a spark I craved. But they were my stepbrothers, and the world outside this penthouse wouldn't understand. I barely understood it myself. One afternoon, while Theo was at a board meeting, Julian found me in the penthouse library, sketching the skyline. He leaned over my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. "You're good, Ezra," he murmured. "But you're holding back. What's stopping you?" I set my pencil down, my throat tight. "You, Theo. This whole thing. It's too much." I turned to face him, his hazel eyes so close I could see the flecks of gold. "What happens if I feel something for both of you?" His grin faltered, but he didn't back away. "Then we figure it out," he said, his voice low. "Together." His hand brushed mine, and for a moment, I let it stay, the warmth of his touch grounding me. But later that night, Theo caught me alone in the kitchen, his sleeves rolled up, making coffee like a normal person instead of a billionaire. "I saw you with Julian today," he said, not accusing, but raw. "I'm not good at this, Ezra. Sharing. Competing. But I can't stop thinking about you." I wanted to say something. Anything. But the words caught in my throat. He stepped closer, his hand hovering near my cheek, then dropped it. "I'll wait," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "As long as it takes." The tension was unbearable, but it wasn't just about them. I started noticing things, whispers between staff, a locked room on the penthouse's top floor, and that photo of the boy who looked like me. I couldn't shake the feeling that Theo and Julian knew more about my past than they let on. My mom's marriage to their father had happened too fast, too conveniently. Was I here because of love? Or something else? I decided to dig. Late one night, while they were both out, I slipped into Theo's office, my heart pounding. The desk was a fortress of files, but one folder caught my eye, labeled Kane. Inside were photos, not just of me, but of my childhood, my old apartment, even my high school art shows. There were notes in Theo's handwriting, Ezra's habits, preferences, dreams. It wasn't just surveillance, it was obsession. I was still holding the folder when Julian walked in. His face paled. Ezra, you weren't supposed to see that. Then tell me the truth. I snapped, my voice shaking. Why do you have this? Why am I here? He ran a hand through his hair. Torn. It's complicated. Theo and I, we knew about you before Mom married Richard. We've been watching you for years. Not because of him, but because of you. Watching me. I felt sick. Like some kind of project. No. Julian stepped closer, his eyes pleading. You were different. You still are. We saw your art, your passion, the way you fought for everything. We wanted to know you. And then, we fell for you. Before I could respond, Theo's voice cut through the room. Julian, stop. He stood in the doorway, his face a mask of guilt. Ezra deserves the whole truth. They sat me down, and the story spilled out. Years ago, they'd stumbled across my art at a small Brooklyn gallery, a piece about loss that hit them both hard. They started following my work, then me, learning about my life through quiet inquiries. When their father met my mom, they saw a chance to bring me closer, not just as family, but as something more. It was calculated. Yes, but their feelings weren't. I didn't know whether to be angry or flattered. So this was all a plan. I asked, my voice trembling. Not the way we feel. Theo said. His eyes locked on mine. That's real. And it's tearing us apart. The truth hung between us like a storm cloud. Electric and heavy. Theo and Julian's confession didn't just complicate things, it shattered the fragile balance we'd been dancing around. I was furious. But beneath the anger was something worse. I cared about them. Both of them. And that scared me more than their secrets. I avoided them for days, locking myself in my room, sketching furiously to process the chaos in my head. My drawings were all sharp lines and shadowed faces, Theo's intense gaze, Julian's crooked smile, the boy from the photo who haunted me. I needed answers, but I also needed space to figure out what I wanted. Because the truth was, I wasn't just caught between them, I was falling for them, too. One evening, I found Theo on the rooftop, staring at the city. He looked tired, his usual control fraying at the edges. I'm sorry, he said without turning, for keeping things from you. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting me from what? I asked, stepping closer. He turned, his blue eyes raw. From us. From this life. It's not as glamorous as it looks. Ezra. There are expectations, pressures, and we dragged you into it. I wanted to stay angry, but his vulnerability disarmed me. You didn't drag me. I said. I chose to come. And I'm still here. He stepped closer, his hand brushing mine. And for a moment, I thought he'd kiss me. But he pulled back, his jaw tight. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Not with Julian in the picture. Before I could respond, Julian's voice cut through the night. Then let's not make it a competition. He stepped onto the rooftop, his expression serious for once. Ezra, We're not asking you to choose. We're asking you to let us try. Try what? I asked, my heart racing. To love you, Julian said simply. Both of us. In whatever way you'll let us. I laughed. A shaky, disbelieving sound. You're insane. Both of you. This isn't some fairy tale-ites messed up. Maybe, Theo said, a rare smile tugging at his lips. But it's our mess. And we want you in it. That night, we talked until dawn, not about their secrets, but about us. Theo shared stories of his childhood. The pressure of being the responsible twin. Julian admitted he used humor to hide his fear of losing people. And I told them about my own struggles growing up poor. Losing my dad. Pouring my heart into art. For the first time, it felt like we were seeing each other. Not just the roles we played. But the outside world wasn't as forgiving. A week later, a tabloid leaked a photo of me with Julian at a gallery. Captioned, Langston Ayres' new mystery man. The internet exploded, speculating about my role in their lives. Theo's PR team scrambled to control the narrative. But the damage was done. Whispers followed me at events. And I overheard staff gossiping about the Stepbrothers scandal. It wasn't just the media. Their father, Richard, called a family meeting, his voice cold over the phone. This ends now, he said when we gathered in his office. Ezra, you're a distraction. And you 2-inch, he glared at Theo and Julian, are jeopardizing my legacy. Theo stood, his voice steady. Your legacy doesn't get to dictate our lives. Julian, usually the peacemaker, nodded. We're not backing down. Dad. Not this time. Richard's face reddened. But I spoke before he could. I'm not here to ruin anything. I said, my voice shaking but firm. But I'm not a pawn. Either. I care about them. And I'm staying. The room fell silent. Richard stormed out. But the victory felt hollow. The world was watching. Judging. And I wasn't sure I was strong enough to face it. That night, Julian found me in my room. My sketches scattered across the floor. He sat beside me, picking up a drawing of the three of us. This is us, isn't it? He asked, his voice soft. Messy, but real. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. I don't know how to do this. Julian, the world's against us. He took my hand, his touch steady. Then we fight for it. Together. Theo joined us, his presence calming the storm in my chest. We'll figure it out, he said, his hand resting on my shoulder. No matter what it takes. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of defiance and discovery. Theo and Julian stood by me, shielding me from the worst of the media storm. But the pressure was relentless. Paparazzi camped outside the Penthouse, and online forums dissected every detail of our lives. Yet, in the quiet moments, late nights on the rooftop, mornings sketching while Theo read and Julian hummed off-key, I found something I'd never had, a sense of belonging. We weren't just fighting for each other. We were redefining what family could mean. Theo opened up more, sharing his fears of failing the company, while Julian let me see the scars behind his carefree facade. I told them about my dreams, not just as an artist, but as someone who wanted a life bigger than survival. Together, we were building something fragile but beautiful. But the past wasn't done with us. One night, I finally unlocked the mystery of the photo. In a dusty box in the locked room, I found letters addressed to a boy named Caleb, the boy who looked like me. He was their childhood friend, someone they both loved, who died in an accident years ago. My resemblance to him wasn't a coincidence. It was why they'd been drawn to me. You're not him, Theo said when I confronted them, his voice thick with emotion. But you brought us back to life. Ezra, you made us feel again. Julian nodded, his eyes glistening. We loved Caleb. But we love you. Not because you look like him, but because you're you. Their words broke something open in me. I'd spent my life feeling like I didn't fit. But here, with them, I did. We weren't perfect. Our love was messy, unconventional, and judged by the world, but it was ours. The turning point came at a Langston Tech Gala, where Richard tried to force Theo and Julian to publicly denounce our relationship. Instead, Theo took the stage, his voice steady as he spoke about love, courage, and building a legacy that included everyone. Julian joined him, his hand finding mine in the crowd. And I stepped up, too, my heart pounding but sure. We're not hiding, I said, my voice carrying over the stunned crowd. Love doesn't have to fit a mold. It just has to be real. The room erupted, some in applause, others in whispers, but we stood together, unyielding. Richard walked out. But for the first time, I didn't care. We'd chosen each other, and that was enough. In the months that followed, we carved out a life that defied expectations. I launched my first art show, backed by Theo's business savvy and Julian's infectious enthusiasm. The Penthouse became our sanctuary, a place where we could be ourselves, three people who'd found love in the most unexpected way. The world didn't fully understand, and maybe it never would. But as I stood on the rooftop with Theo and Julian, the city stretching out before us, I knew we'd built something stronger than judgment. We'd built a home not just in the penthouse, but in each other. And that was worth everything.